In the Olympic Village, we had, obviously, all the athletes stayed together. I was knocking on Andy Murray's door at 12 o'clock at night. Do you want to play FIFA? Like, he's playing the next day. That's how childish I was, like, in my head. I was going to go and hit him, yeah?
Yeah.
And I said, right, the best thing is to do, I said, there was a police van parked onto the right. I went, let's just walk down here, me and you. It hasn't got to be all of us, and me and you, and we'll do it now. Right now, we'll have it. This second.
But you don't think he's going to win a world title?
He never, ever, ever. I'll tell you what I would do with you, Simon. I'll have a bet with you now, and I'll give you 2-1, and I will pay me bets. You know, he'd never be world champion as long as he's got an O on his arse.
Okay. All right. This is Up Front with me, Simon Jordan. I believe there are a lot of vacuous, uninformed, unchallenged opinions out there. I want to get to the bottom line and cut through the nonsense. So with this podcast with William Hill, I'm going to get people with strong views who think they can stand them up to proper scrutiny. There's a good chance I might learn something along the way, and more importantly, so might you. Joining me in today's episode is a boxer born out from a community where we're often told fighting is in the blood. A career that saw 30 wins along the way, with his only defeat coming against Canelo Alvarez in front of the biggest live boxing audience in America since Ali versus Spinks. Despite controversy often following him, he went on to become a two-weight world champion at both middle and super-middleweight. Billy Joe Saunders, welcome to Up Front.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Nice to see you, mate. One of my favourite fighters. Likes you a lot, like the style of your fights.
Thank you.
Got some questions about some of the decisions that you made and some of the fights that you took.
Yeah.
But what we do, Billy, in these discussions, because one of the fascinating things for me is I love talking to boxers.
Yeah.
Talk to footballers because that was obviously my background, but I've got this real love of boxing and the spirit of boxing and the integrity and the authenticity of it and the characters in it. Not all of them are authentic. But we try to start with this sort of rounded question of what is someone's why. You come from a community, a travelling community, which seems to have, by reference, fighting in its blood.
Yeah.
Walk me through your journey into becoming a fighter and the journey that you went on. What were the triggers for you? What made you want to fight?
Well, it's going back when I was 5 years old. Obviously, you've probably heard of Dow Farm.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live on Dow Farm when I was 5 years old. My parents, my brother and my sister. And being brought up in the gypsy community, it's not for everybody because, you know, you get these young kids now, if they come running in crying to the mum and dad, they've just been beaten up, the mum and dad's out looking weird, get turned around, chucked back out the door, go and deal with it then. Don't come back in
I
here.
kind of agree with that mentality. That's how I was brought up.
Don't come crying around me, go and deal with it. And if you want to go and get a beating every day, you know it's pointless going home crying and telling you got a beating every day. I was a little bit different. I was a little bit more outgoing. My brother was a very good boxer himself. Right. He was getting bullied, and I remember my mum at one stage. My brother, he lost a load of weight, and one stage my mum paid someone a £5 and I stood there, and she went, "I'll give you £5 if you go out there," because he was so cowardly. "If you go in there, pull my son out and beat him up." Right. This is what she said about my brother, and I'm listening to my mum say this to this person. He was a bit older than me at the time. And do you remember the long tube lights? I remember just seeing one sitting near the fence.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, I remember seeing one sitting near the fence.
I used to love smashing them up when I was a kid at factories.
Yeah, well, that's what we probably used to do of them there. But in the end, I remember him walking in to give my brother an ride, and I run and grab one of those, and I chased him off out of it anyway. And it was that sort of time then when my dad, started saying, "Right, we're going to take you to the gym, to my brother. We're going to learn you just hold your hands up."
Was your dad fight, man?
I think my dad had 18 amateur fights. Right. I think he won 10, lost 8, but he was more like, I remember being a kid and watching Prince Nazim Ahmed, Eubank box. You know, my dad watching, he used to love, he loved boxing non-stop. He just loved boxing. But
because your grandfather was a bare knuckle fighter, right?
Years ago, my granddad, Absalom Beanie, they called him. Yeah, he used to be out and he'll have his goes. He was known for jumping out, having a fight. Yeah. When my brother went to the gym, I remember I went to Cheshunt Amateur Boxing Gym, and we went in there. And I remember going in there the first time, and I just remember walking around and punching a bag and, just messing around with the kids really more than anything. And my brother, obviously, he went and he took to it like real good.
Mm-hmm.
Within like weeks, he was like flying. And I was just still...
Is this the brother that was being accused of being a coward earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
You know, and I remember getting the gloves on, sparring, and I didn't really like the training side, but when I got in the ring sparring, I just remembered, like, it was like a bit of a energy buzz.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a feeling that I can always remember the first time I put my gloves on the spar. It was just like no other feeling, like I'm in there.
Right.
Basically, I'm allowed to have a fight now.
How old were
Like-
you then?
I was 7.
Right. So young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I just loved it. Like, just
Was there any other sports for you at the time, or was it simply
No, I was a
you
good
found
f-
boxing and that was it?
I was a good footballer. I used
Right.
to get. I only went. Listen, from where we come from, you don't get much of an education. You're not really allowed much of an
From the
education
travelling community, that wasn't
Yeah.
part of the job description.
From the travelling
Yeah.
community, yeah, like all of the travelling community, you see all these young kids. You know, they're all married at 17, 18, and you know.
Yeah.
But when I went to school until I was 11. But all the way in my primary school, I was the number 1 football player. Like
Right.
if I got a bit of detention at the time, I could half bend the
Get
teacher
around it
over
'cause
because
he
he
was
used to
a
love
footballer,
football.
yeah.
And we used to go around and play the other primary schools, and I used to go with him. He used to pick me up as well. And I wasn't a bad footballer, but boxing, it was just something a bit more satisfying.
But was
for
it kind of
myself.
set in stone for you, Bill, that this was the direction, if you were going to do sport, with the influences around you? I mean, I suppose the question is, was there a lot of value in the community that you come from put on being someone that could hold their hands up, someone that could fight?
To be honest with you, you have to learn to hold your hands up in the travelling community.
Yeah.
Even to this day. And going back when we was getting brought up as kids, it was probably more, you know, jump out, have a fight, play friends after kids, you know. But it's very important from the travelling community to learn to hold your hands up, because you see some of these other, you know, big families, you know, they might have somebody who's had an argument in this family, and the individual who's had an argument might not be the best of his name. So they go, all right, well, hold up. We got, I don't know, John here. He can fight. He'll fight you just because of their names. So it's very important to learn to hold your hands up, because you never know what's going to happen or when you're going to need to fight.
When you got in there, did you? Because I think a lot of you is natural ability, isn't it?
Yeah.
The way you fight with your hands down and the movement that you've got is a natural thing, isn't it? It
Yeah.
probably can be enhanced, but it can't necessarily be coached and developed. It's there, and it can be enhanced rather than created. But did you know from the outset, I can do this. I'm pretty good at this. I fancy it. I know you told me that it was an adrenaline shot and it got you going and it gave you a lift when you were in the ring. But did you look at yourself and think, I've got something going on here? I'm actually pretty good at this, and this is something I could do pretty well.
It wasn't that I thought that. It was a belief I had as a kid. Out of my first amateur fight, I was 11, and I stopped him in the first round. And I remember, like, I just believed so much I was going to be world champion then. Like,
Did you?
Yeah, I just knew I was
Right.
going to be world champion. I don't know what it was. I just knew that I was going to earn a few quid and be world champion.
Did you ever have any doubts? Was it always belief all the way? Because, again, Johnny Nelson spent his time, something dropped in his mind and clicked. I think it was probably after the Carlos de Leon fight and some of the humiliation that he felt afterwards with the ridicule that he got, that there was a sense of not deserving to be there, or more to the point, having a crisis of confidence. Anything ever manifest itself in you? Are you just that single-minded that whatever you decide you're going to be good at, and in this instance boxing, end of discussion, that's what I'm going to do?
There was no doubt. I remember, like, Terry Edwards, Jim Davison used to take the 2012 squad, development and podium. And I remember Jim Davison, I won everything as a junior. And it was just time for me to turn senior. I just turned 17 and I was wiping the floor of every one of them there. I boxed Antony Joshua.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I
remember having on a club show with him. And we had an old matchmaker called Charlie Bliss. He's an old fella, God love me. When I first started from the Cheshunt Boxing Club, he would not turn down a fight for me and my brother with anybody.
Right.
Yeah, it was like we were chucked in.
Right.
We wasn't looked after. He just had that much belief in us And I remember him saying...
And that didn't bother you at the time?
No, I remember him saying, right, you're fighting Antony Joshua, and he boxed a cousin of mine called Billy Joe a few months before. And my trainer, Danny Hoy, my amateur coach, he went, Charlie, like, he's a bit heavier than him. He went, like, he's 5 kilo heavier. He went, yeah, that's okay, he said. That's no problem. When I got there, he made me put 2 kilo and 2 kilo weights in each side of my shorts, and I still weighed 1.5 kilos lighter than him. So I jumped on the scales, he pulled me off, got me out there, he said, right, go and get some food in you now, he said, and be nice and strong. But I didn't look at it and think, oh, he's massive after me. I just looked at him, I took his belief, but he's doing this, yeah, no problem. I went in there and beat him. And from then, my confidence just grew and grew and grew and grew. And especially when I went from the development to the podium, I mean, Terry Edwards said to me, look, he said, Neil Perkins, he was the number 1. He won the world bronze. He boxed all over the world. But I knew this was my chance, that he asked me for sparring from the number 1 Neil Perkins at 69 kilo. And I thought, right, if I need to go in here and need to, do a bit of a job. And I went in, I sparred very, very well. Very well. And then he said, like, come back again Friday. And I went back again Friday and sparred well again.
How did that, you had this ambition to get to the Olympics, but you have a second round exit in the Olympics. How's that play out in your mindset?
Do you know what? If I would have been, and I know a lot of people say, Simon, I could have done this, I could have done that. The Olympic silver medalist and gold medalist were the Cuban and the Kazakhstani. Yeah. I beat both of them 10 weeks prior in the Bulgarian a competition they called Stranger Cup.
Right.
And I went to the Olympic Games, bit of Billy the Big Bollocks really, thinking I'm just going to turn up here and I'm gonna win the Olympic gold, and that was my mindset there. And that's where I found, my negative side of myself to the positive side, because when I get too confident, I was too confident, and I was thinking I've just got to turn up here, and I've beat the Cuban already, and I've beat the Kazakhstani. I'm just gonna, I remember, this is how immature I was. In the Olympic Village, we had obviously all the athletes stay together. There were Andy Murray in there and his brother, and I was knocking on Andy Murray's door at 12 o'clock at night. Do you want to play FIFA? Like, he's playing the next day. That's how childish I was, like, in my head.
You'd be able to hang around Jaden Sancho.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just stupidness. But looking back at it now, if I would have won gold in Olympic Games, I don't think I would have done as well as a pro.
Really?
100%.
Where's your coaches in this? I mean, you're young, dumb, and full of the other thing. Are the coaches saying to you, hang on, Bill, get your mind right, get your focus right? Or are you just a law unto yourself at that point?
Look, I nearly actually never even went to the Olympic Games. I nearly got sent home even before the Olympics even started in Macau training camp. Why? Me and Frankie Gavin, he was struggling with the weight. So we wasn't allowed out of the Olympic training camp. And me and Frankie decided to steal 2 jet skis.
Right.
Outside of the hotel, and then we thought these people were looking at us and like chasing us. So then me and him's doing moonies to them going across the sea, and it happens to be the Sun newspaper and someone else. So they identified it was me and him, and then he came into the room and went, look, the head coach come in and said, look, Billy Joe, they're sending you home. You're not going to the Olympics, you're not representing the country. And I'm thinking, well, what have I done? Like, I didn't realise. As you can tell, some of the things I've done is very stupid, what we'll probably get onto. Yeah. And being young, I don't know if it was lack of education, a bit hyperactive. I don't know what was in my mind at the time. But when they said I was going home from the Olympics, I thought, oh, shit. Like, fucked it all, eh? Yeah. And then it hit home. And then Frankie Gavin, to be fair, couldn't make the weight. And he went, look, I take the strain here. I can't make the weight anyway. You carry on. So I'll never forget him for that. But that was the story of the Olympic Games. But
when you knocked on his door, did Andy Murray open it?
He just told me, like, fuck off, really, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it was more or less along them lines. I can't remember what was said, but it was like, what you doing? Bam, door shut.
So you come out, you turn pro, and you have a successful start to your pro career, and you go on about a 21-fight winning spree. You beat Nick Blackwell. and a bunch of other people to get to the British and Commonwealth titles.
Yeah.
And then you get fed up and pissed off.
Yeah.
And your dad steps in, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And talks to you about, I think you went and said to him, didn't you, from what I can recall and what I'm looking at, is that you were just like, oh, I'm fed up with this, I can't be bothered with it, I'm out of shape, I can't be bothered. And your dad sort of give you the, done you attitude.
We all had them, you've probably had it yourself.
In life,
that talking to, and sometimes we need it.
Well, what brought it on? I mean, you're telling me, right, that you're full of it, right? You believe that you can do whatever you set your mind to, and so you're setting your mind to certain things, right? And you took the Olympic Games, you were a bit too complacent, got a bit too carried away with yourself, and lost the fight that you should have won, right? And probably gone on and won a gold. But you actually say, with the benefit of hindsight, that was a good thing because it might have been my undoing. You go into the pro game, and you're going through it at pace. You're undefeated for 21 fights. You're on the cusp of being someone quite significant, and all of a sudden, something clicks in your mind. I don't fancy this.
In my mind, Simon, it works very strangely and bizarre. And I remember like winning the British title, like I'm saying, beating John Ryder and Nick Blackwell. And I remember damaging my hand and I had a hand operation.
Yeah.
And I remember I put on a little bit of weight and I was, I don't know what come over me. I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to go and do something else. I don't know what I was going to do.
Right.
Probably be in prison or something. I'm not quite sure what I was going to do, let's be honest. I don't know what I was going to go and continue to be successful. But I just had enough. And then I thought, you know what? I was bored and I just had because sometimes I say stuff to like my dad to upset him and to wind
get a rise out of him.
Yeah. But I went there and I had a sick of it.
Is he a big influence in your life?
Yeah, my dad is, yeah. And I remember my dad saying to me, he kept saying, cool, you put some weight on, you put some weight on. So I went and seen him and I said, you know what? I said, I've had enough of it. I said, I think I'm just going to jack it in now. I said, like, I've won the British title and that. And he looked at me, he went, well done. He went, yeah, good. Go and buy yourself a truck and go and put some scrap on the back. He went, that's the best thing for you to do. So go on, fuck off, he went. And I thought to myself, and I walked out and do you know what? I wanted to give him a load of abuse back. But I thought, I've got to make him right. Like he was a good boy, well done. See you later then, crack on, see how far
that's your level, son, is that what you want to do, yeah?
And then I thought, all right, no problem. Then I thought, do you know what, I'm going to have one more. And then that's when I got fit to box Eubank.
Yeah.
Because I was only going to fight him, give the belt to my dad and go, there you go.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like, Frank's very good. Frank's the best. Like, he'd get you in, you're getting a meeting with him and are you sure? Yeah, so Frank, like, I'll have this fight, we'll see how it goes. But then he just talk to you and he'll get you around. Frank's very, very good at his job. And then I just took to it again. I didn't fall out of love with it. I just got a bit sick of the politics.
Being what?
Well, at the time, Martin Murray was the number one. And I just thought I wanted to be up there with the big boys. But looking back now, I wasn't ready.
Right.
You know, I was seeing all these young fighters.
Did you not think that you were getting your opportunity to be there?
No, well, it wasn't so much opportunity. It was more impatient. Looking back on it now, I wanted everything young.
Yeah.
I want to fight now for £1 million. I want to. Do you know what I mean? I want to get to this world title now. I want to have this European shot now.
Was it about Bill? Was it about winning things, or was it about getting paid?
Do you know what? I can honestly say, I've never, ever, ever once stepped foot in the ring in my right hand to God and thought, I'm getting some money, I'm getting a nice few quid now. It's never entered my mind. Obviously after when you box and you got,
course.
You know, and then...
It's part of it.
Yeah, then, you know, but I've never thought, I'm boxing.
It's not your main motivator.
Yeah, it's never
it comes
been.
with the territory. If you're good, you get paid, right?
Yeah, and it's never, ever been. That's never entered my mind thinking, I'm getting this much money. Obviously, in negotiations, you leave it with lawyers and your team to get the maximise what you can get. And that's this business.
But it's prize fighting. There's no implied criticism. I'm just trying to understand because I've always believed, and with the footballers that I had at times, I used to say to them, be good at what you do and the money will follow.
Yeah.
If you're good at... I've not met a successful pauper. Yeah. You're going to make dough. You're going to be successful and you're going to get paid, but be good at what you do first. So I was just trying to establish in your mind's eye, some people fight simply for the motivation of the financial gain. Some people play football for the financial gain. Other people do it because they want to be really good, better than the other fella, and get something from it that's different than just the rewards that will come anyway.
Yeah. And at the time, they were Frankie Gavin, James DeGale and me turning over a Frank. And I think we all, like Junkie was a bit about the money and he was, I got this much, you got that much. And like...
But he did well though, James did.
He did very well and he's a lovely fellow, Chunky is, and Frankie Gavin, I remember thinking I was always playing catch-up. Not in money, in performances.
Yeah.
I watch them fight and I think, right, I want to steal the show here. And we probably all bounced off each other for that when we was all on the same show. So it all kept us on our toes. And probably that manifested in my head. And I just had that all the way through my career. I got a box well with. And
so you brought him up. So I'm going to bring him up now because I was going to anyway. Eubank. And obviously there was a bit of rancor and a bit of toing and froing between you and him. I think he thinks he won that fight.
Yeah.
What's your take on him? What was your take on him building up to that fight? What was your take as a result of that fight? And when you look at him now, because I've got a view, I've called him a charlatan, and we'll discuss that in a second, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong and whether I'm out of order for saying it. But walk me through your experiences with Eubank, because it's probably the fight at the beginning of the journey for Billy Joe Saunders to start becoming a very well-known name.
Yeah.
Because everybody, even Chris Eubank Jr., trades off the legacy of his father, right?
Yeah.
You go in and fight a Eubank, it elevates everyone's profile, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what was your thinking about it all?
When Frank Warren mentioned, when Eubank first got into the sport, turned pro, I'm not sure if it could have been Twitter. I tweeted him when he first turned over. I tweeted him just a silly little message.
Yeah.
Just a silly little message, because obviously I knew that he's dad, and I knew that obviously like he's gonna, he carry some weight for a fight.
A diggy message.
Yeah, just a little diggy one. And I remember I boxed in Manchester, and I see him out. I was with 3 or 4 of my mates. He was with 4 or 5 of his mates, and we bumped into each other. And we started having an argument. And I says to him, and if he's watching, he can state if I'm a liar, but there was plenty of people in there that knows. And he was like calling names. So I went to go in. I was going to go and hit him, yeah?
Yeah.
And I said, right, the best thing is to do, I said, there was a police van parked onto the right. I went, let's just walk down here, me and you. It hasn't got to be all of us, me and you, and we'll do it now. Right now, we'll have it. This second. And he went, oh, no, we want to... And he was sort of like, he was winding me up, if I'm honest. And I remember one of his, I think it could have been Harlem. I'm not sure if it was Harlem. It could have been. He had the video on, and he went, don't worry, Chris, if he strikes you, his paycheck's gone from what he boxed tonight. Well, something like that it was. But look, I didn't want it to come to that.
No.
Obviously not. But, you got a bit of, you got 2 young cubs there, and, he could have easily went the other way. And I just remember from then, I just turned to thinking, do you know what, you're not a man. And I knew he was a bit of a fraudster, because if he would have said to me, walk over here, I would have walked over there. And that's where I knew.
It wouldn't have been a good thing to do, though, would it?
It wouldn't have been, but at the time, Simon, very young, very naive, very dumb. It was like, all right, well, we're sorted like men. Like, I'm used to sorting things as being a kid, like, in a way, I suppose.
On the cobbles, yeah.
And he probably did have the sensible head not to. So I can thank him for that.
Yeah.
But as a person, he's just an arrogant, he's just a very arrogant person who I just couldn't click with his personality, and I can get on with anybody.
What do you think of him as a fighter? I mean, it's not my place, but I've said it, and I know that there's an attitude if you haven't laced up a set of gloves, and I couldn't do what you guys do. Right? I don't have the temperament for it. It's not because I'm frightened of it. It's just not my game. I love the sport, I admire it, and I respect it, but I called him a charlatan, and the reason why I called him a charlatan is because I
watched that, to be honest.
Did you? My point behind it is that I don't want to listen to you tell me the world titles that you're going to fight for, that you never fight for. I don't want to hear about your Las Vegas mansion and how much money you've made. I want you to fight real fighters and get on to winning a world title like you tell us that you're good enough to do, because every time you've stepped up to it, you've gotten beat. Billy Joe Saunders beat you, George Groves beat you, and you fought Junkie, you fought James DeGale when James DeGale was all done.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think of him as a fighter?
Well, I've said it from day one. He will never be world champion. Even, I look at some people...
Is that because you don't like him?
No.
Or is that because you don't think he's got the capability?
I'll tell you the reason why. Simon, because I've been in the ring with him.
Yeah.
That's the reason why. I know the difference between like your David Lemieux, why I can see why they were world champion, your Andy Lees, why they were world champion, even John Ryder.
Yeah.
But when I was in there with him, at the time, I had, because by the way, they're an absolute nightmare to do business with, a nightmare.
Who with him and his dad?
Him and his dad were an absolute nightmare to do business with, and that's do you know what the biggest thing was put me off fighting him, is doing the business deal, because even though the money's good and the money's great, and listen, I want to earn a few quid, he wants to earn a few quid, but the silly pettiness what comes with that,
right?
In these contracts.
Who walks in first? Who does this? And who does
not
that?
even that. When I come in, people can't be in the room. When I walk into a press conference, he's got to be in there first, and he's got to stay there while I get up and leave. It was just, Simon, listen, this was a joke. I've never seen a contract like this in my life, and I think he's okay. He'll never be world champion. My initial thought of the first fight with Liam Smith, is that Liam was on the ball. My honest opinion, I like Liam and I like all the Smiths. I think Smith got a few quid. He got a little bit comfortable, and he chucked himself in the deep end when he shouldn't have done that. And when I say chuck yourself in the deep end, I don't mean in the fight. I mean
on the second fight.
I've had 2 years off. I can't expect to get in the ring probably right this second now with, let's pick up with even Eubank, let's say, because I want to give myself a fair chance and a fair advantage. So I know my body and I know what I need to do to get it right.
Do you think I was wrong? Because my opinion has changed of Eubank a little bit. I've been quite harsh, insofar as my opinion is relevant. I've been quite harsh on the fact that I think he's a charlatan. I think he's a little bit of a all flash for cash merchant. But I also think he is very charismatic. He's a brilliant speaker, and he's created so much juice around him. And my observation is, for someone that's not really won very much, I know that his dad will tell us that an IBO title should be celebrated in the same way that once upon a time the WBO belt, when his dad had won it years ago, was the sort of runt of the litter. It was the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA belts that had all the relevance when Chris Eubank Sr. was fighting. I've developed more of an admiration for him, a bit more respect for him than I had previously, because I sat there listening to him thinking, no, you're not for me. You talk a good game, but when it comes down to it, you don't do it. You go in a fight, you want to emulate what Roy Jones Jr. does, and you're not Roy Jones Jr., so you don't have a mind of your own. You've got that Eubank sort of attitude and arrogance, and I don't know if it's arrogance, but there's a feeling of extreme belief. But I've changed my attitude towards him a little bit. Are you still in the space where you're not having him at all?
Look, me and him will never be friends, let's say. We'd never celebrate, anything together. But what I will say is he knows how to sell himself. And in this sport,
part of it is that
you either be the superhero or the villain. Sadly, I probably chose the villain in a way in the sport. Because
so did he to some extent, didn't he?
He did, he did. But the thing is, if you don't go down that route, you don't earn any money. And I know it's a hard thing to say, because it's setting examples
you've got to
to all these young fighters.
You've got to create a reaction in the people that are watching you.
When these fighters now are bringing out content, come and watch me train and, doing YouTube videos of them training. That's lovely, that's brilliant. But no one's interested. No one's really interested in that. The fans ain't interested in that. They want to see a bit of controversy and, a little bit of shit in the face probably or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But they just, that there now, boxing, to get any money out of it, you have to be, one, you're going to have to fight. And Eubank can fight. Eubank can fight, but he just can't box.
Right.
That's the problem. He can fight, but he can't box. I mean, Eubank is, when we were going back 24, 25, like a wind-up toy, you could get him fit, wind him up, let him go, and he'd go all day. Now we're at the stage of 33, 34, where you've got to learn to pace yourself, pick your punches, flow around. No disrespect to Liam Smith, but he was no different than a punch bag.
In the second fight?
In the second fight. It wasn't him, but just walking forward, his legs were collapsed in, just walking forward with his hands up, hit me, until he couldn't take any more. He done well, but, that's not... And he got a few quid, and
I was there. I spoke to Paul. Directly afterwards and said, "What was that?"
You couldn't say it wasn't. Listen, it just wasn't him. But there was no difference in him standing there in front of someone than holding a bag up, because he couldn't throw anything, whatever his back problem. He couldn't let a shot go. You could see it wasn't him, but You know, and Eubank just walked around and on his back foot, pick, poke, broke him down and put a few combinations together, and that was it.
Well, you don't think he's going to win a world title?
He'll never, ever, ever be. I'll tell you what I would do with you, Simon. I'll have a bet with you now, and I'll give you 2-1, and I will pay me bets.
Well, I'm not like Judge as well, yeah.
I will pay me bets. I'll have a, he'll never be world champion as long as he's got an O on his arse.
Okay. All right.
He just won't.
Following on from the Eubank situation, I'm going to skip through other fights, and I'm going to land you with Alvarez in a second. But the precursor to that is to ask you about you and how good you thought you were. You're now at a stage where you're a world champion, and I imagine winning a world championship can change your view, but I think you're pretty confident anyway. When we talk about levels, how good do you think you were?
Going in there, obviously, you think you can beat. Simon, when you get geared up for a fight with the best pound for pound fighter on the planet, you go to bed thinking about it. You wake up thinking about it. You'd be walking around. There's not a minute of the day you don't really. It's running through your mind. But I've never really, put this out there because I had my strength and conditioner coach there, I had my nutritionist there, I had my trainer there. At the time was Mark Tibbs. I had Tom Watts there, who obviously helps manage me. 4 weeks before that, I pulled my hamstring. I don't know if you see a video of me running in a swimming pool, getting ready for that fight.
No,
I was running on a treadmill, water treadmill.
Right, okay.
And
is that because you'd pulled a hamstring?
I pulled a hamstring, yeah. Right. And it affected my sparring. I couldn't start my sparring. And then sort of like when you're getting ready for a fight like that, because I'm a warrior anyway. When I fight, I've lost in my own head 50 times thinking, what happens here? Like every fight, I don't care who it is.
Right.
Think about the defeat.
Do you?
Every fighter thinks about the defeat. So the last thing you want to do, I don't care all these fighters come in, oh yeah, I don't ever think. They're lying in their room and they're thinking, I could get beat here. I don't want to lose this. I'll give anything now. I've actually got on a plane before when I was boxing Andy Lee, just skipping the point, just showing you how I think. And I remember before the plane taking off, and I prayed to God, and I was a bit selfish to do, God, if I'm going to lose this fight, let this plane crash. And I remember, I know it's a bit weird thing to say, and I'm just being very open, but that's the sort of difference between winning and losing means at that level.
Yeah.
Life or death.
But it's a strange mindset to have, because Frocci said that when he started as a fighter, and he went for a period of time being a decent amateur, that he was terrified of embarrassing himself. And then once he got past that, he used to say that he was in a dressing room and he wanted to get out there and wanted to be somewhere else because he was worried about the consequences of losing and embarrassing himself. But once he got into a situation where he established what he was, he believed he could win every single fight and never even priced into his thinking that he was going to lose anything.
Of course you do. You believe in everything. Every fight I've gone into, I went in believing I can win.
But, so why are you thinking about... what was the driver then to you thinking about losing then? Because
that always goes through every fighter's mind. Because I'll tell you the reason why, Simon, not only that as well. When you go into a fight, and you would probably know this, you can be from the touching of the stars and, getting a nice few quid as well, because it comes with the job.
Yeah.
But when somebody loses, it's like they're forgot about.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
It's like you're forgot about completely until they need you again or something pops along like that. So that's the way of my... And every fight I've had, like friends, I've had and these fighters now, even Tyson Fury, when you have a chat to him, it's... When you have a chat to them, that always goes through their mind. What happens now, like, if I lose? So you're sort of, in a way, putting a barrier up to scare yourself not to lose, if you know where I'm coming from. It's just some people may manifest it in a different way, but that's the way I put it in my head. Right, what if I lose here? This is not going to be good. Like, I'll come to a stage, and the worst bits was when you were fighting for the Commonwealth, European, British.
Yeah.
Because when you lose at that level...
Yeah, you've got nowhere else to go, have you?
It's very tough to come back to make anything. And I say, even the fighters I look at now, I say, look, I'm not putting no pressure on you, I'm just telling you the truth. If you lose, and anyone can get beat, it's a hard road back. And it is. I've seen fighters. Look at John Ryder. He's a world-class fighter, but he got beat at them stages. Look how long it took him just to get, back seen as a world opponent. It's a very hard game.
Was it a different whole different set of rules for you going in against Canelo Alvarez? I mean, you've been in with Andy Lee, who was a good champion and a good fighter. You've been with other fighters, Willie Monroe and a bunch of other people that are good fighters. I'm going to ask you about whether there were fighters that you could have fought. But fighting Alvarez, all that goes with him and the reputation, he'd been in with 7 other British fighters, you know, whether it's Rocky Felding, whether it's Callum Smith, whether it's whoever else that's been in with him, Matthew Hatton, and on we go. 7 British fighters went before you, and each one of them has been sent back. Did any of that price into your thinking? Because I listened to you, and I was in the camp. I thought you could win this fight. I quite fancied you. I thought it was a difficult one for you, but I felt that there was a chance that you could go and do what you needed to do, because I think you had quick feet, and I think he doesn't like that. And I felt that if you could get yourself into the fight, there'd be an opportunity for you. But for you going into that fight, you walk into an environment, there's 73,000 fans. This is the biggest.
I think there were more.
Was there more? Well, they recorded it as 73, but let's just say it was big, right? But it was the biggest audience in American boxing history since, as I said in the opening, Ali Fox fights Leon Spinks. It's a crowd that's completely partisan against a champion that people now believe is unbeatable, with a history of fighters from these shores that he's sent back packing one way or the other. Did it enter into your minds, okay, no, I'm going in here with someone that's really quite significant, or you just think, this is the business I'm in, I'm a world champion, I'm coming here, I'm on parity with him?
Do you know what, Simon? It's probably the least nervous that I've ever been.
Is that because you could suffer the loss because it would be explainable?
No, it was, I'll tell you what it was, because it don't get any bigger.
Right, okay.
Because it don't get any bigger. Like I thought, like it don't get any bigger now. This is the best meet the best. Like if I'm good enough, I do it. And do you know what it was? When round 1 come out and the bell went, I remember being in the ring, sat back down, and then I thought, right, well that round there, like I've won that round, and I'm sat down again. Round 2 come out, and when we come to round 3, I thought, is this it?
In what way?
I was expecting more.
In what way?
Well, I was expecting him to be more of a beast, because obviously when you're fighting someone like this, and every fight they visualise what's going on, like you're going in there with the absolute monster of the monsters of the monsters. And when I was in there, and I come away with that fight with great confidence in a way, and I'll tell you why in a minute, because I never once felt out of depth.
Yeah.
I never felt like I was in trouble at any stage. I never felt like I was being outboxed. Listen, he had a lot of success in there at times in some of the rounds. I think I shared success.
And you were beginning to yourself.
And I remember in round 6, at the end of round 6, I thought to myself, he's fading out now. Right. And I remember 7, 8 and 9, I was thinking, right, I'm going to push him on now. Yeah. And obviously 7, I come out at a decent round, and the 8th round, I got caught with a shot. And I'll never forget it. When I kept ducking low, but what he is very clever at, Canelo, he's very, very clever at letting you get away with stuff early, and capitalising the later rounds. He let you get away with something for 1, 2 rounds. Right. Let you get away. My mistake, I was ducking to my left because I thought, right, I'm missing every time now. He's missing with that right hand every time I duck low, and I come with a body shot and get around him. And out of the blue, I remember ducking down, and it was more like a palm. And I remember, I thought, right, I thought I was wobbled. I thought, you wobbled here. And I went back, and I thought, oh, you're not wobbled. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, you could literally see free. And he was in the ring, and he did this. He put his hands up like this.
Yeah, I saw him.
Because he saw, he knew, he obviously...
He knew you were in trouble, didn't he?
He knew I was in trouble. Yeah. And I remember, for a minute...
Because he called on the crowd, didn't he?
There was a minute and 13 seconds left, because I watched it back. And I can just remember, Simon, this wind going... Whoosh, I could just hear the wind because I couldn't really see him with this eye. And obviously, when I went back to the corner, Mark was saying, Ben looked through the corner. He said, right, your eye's gone. I said, look, no, I'm all right. I said, I'll switch orthodox. And Mark Tibbs went, one more round, he went, I'm going to give you. And I thought, I'm going to have to go out orthodox. And then I remember Ben grabbing me, and Ben looked at Mark and he went, Billy Joe, he said, your eye's gone. He's got it. He said, look, if we stop it now, he said, we can get a rematch. I said, listen, I said, just give me. He said, Billy Joe, no, I'm not letting you do it. He said, I'm not letting you do it. And I thought, do you know what? at the time, because you get criticism with people, oh, he quit on his stall, he's this, that. But
Well, you opened yourself up to that, though, didn't you?
yeah, but look,
Because you had a go at Daniel Dubois, didn't you?
I had a pop at Daniel Dubois, yeah, but there's a difference. I would never, ever, I could have easily went on one knee there and not got up. I
Yeah, but
carried on.
to be fair, Bill, his trainers, you were lucky. Your trainer took you away from that position.
He did.
His trainer didn't, did it?
He didn't. No, he didn't. And I can honestly say, I did have a pop at him, and I probably did put myself in that position. But knowing what I know in the corner and what, you know, when people say slag you off, I'm thinking, do you know what? They can have their opinion.
Yeah.
My team and that know what's what.
Yeah.
I know what's what myself. And
Because I was choked. I was watching it, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was watching it on DAZN, and I was getting out there sitting there. I was thinking, right, he's getting in the fight now. He's looking sharp. You know, his feet are moving well, and okay, Canelo looks like he's, you know, landing some decent shots. He's had some decent body shots, and he's getting a bit
do you know
closer.
What, I've never in that fight all the way through it, Simon. I didn't even feel so much as all the way through it. I just didn't even feel not so much as one shot, not a jab. I know that sounds silly. It might have been where the crowd would have been so high and buzzing, so high, like you're up there. But I didn't feel so much as a jab. Like, it was so enjoyable at that stage. Like, I know it's a weird thing to say, but it was just so enjoyable. But I look back sometimes and I think, why did I have to get caught with that shot now? Like, why at that stage there? What? What's wrong? I'll never go, I think. I'm as hard as nails, like Joe Joyce probably thinking again.
Yeah.
But in this sport, everything happens for a reason. And in this sport, it's the only sport you can legally get killed in. One of the only sports you can legally get killed in. And that comes with the game.
Yeah.
You know, and I take me hat off to him. He was a better man on the night. You know, I can tip me hat to him. Like, I'll give it my best shot on the night.
Was it levels, Bill? Was there levels in there? Do you think he was a level above you?
Do you know what? Without making any excuses, Simon, because I've never made an excuse in my life, like when it comes to, especially at that magnitude of fight, I just wish that I could have done things a little bit different. I just wish that I could have done with things.
Like what?
Well, you know, for one, being happy with who I got around me at the time. You know, I don't want to go too much into, you know, certain things with camps and trainers and other.
Well, you
bits and
brought it
bobs.
up. You were not happy with trainer.
Well, it wasn't ideal. Like, I wasn't as 100% happy. I wanted Jimmy Tibbs in my corner. That's the reason why Mark was a choice of. You know, I started with Jimmy, and you know, it never really materialised. Jimmy couldn't get in and get out. But realistically, I probably, you know, should have been a bit more happy with my pickings. Let's just say that in a way.
So far as you stand, do you think you've achieved what you should have achieved? Do you look back on it, anything right now, as it stands now, 31 fights, 30 wins, two titles at different weight classes? Do you think you wasted any of your talent? Because you're a natural talent. You've got a natural boxing IQ, haven't you? And you've got a natural talent, natural balance. I think you're a very elegant-looking fighter. You're very stylistically right, and a southpaw to boot, which is always a handful of problems for most people. Do you look and think, I could have done a bit more?
Do you know what? My take on it, Simon, is that I've always done what I wanted in boxing. And I remember sitting down with Frank Warren, and the first word out my mouth was to Frank Warren, how long is it going to take me to earn £1 million? Because I set in my mind...
I thought you said it wasn't about money.
No, but when I first started being a young kid, don't forget, Frank Warren said to me before I went to Olympic Games, I'll give you 80 grand not to go to Olympics. And I said, no, I want to go to Olympics. So it wasn't about the money, but when you're used to, you know, living in a 19-foot caravan with a stove heater in it, laying up the floor with a window, with a plastic bag.
It's a gear change, isn't it?
As a window where you're freezing cold, it helps, you know, especially when you haven't never seen it before, had it, and then they're talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm thinking, I'm turning pro, and I'm looking at Frank Warren, I'm thinking, this is the man what made Ricky Allen, this is the man what's made Joe Kozaki, Nazim Ahmed, all this money and everything else. Like this was, it's excitement. And I said, how long is it going to take to earn £1 million? And he went 10 years, and I thought, fuck me, that's long. And I thought, yeah, like I remember thinking,
hang on a second, you've got a caravan, you've got no stove, you've got no heating, and all of a sudden you're complaining about how long it takes £1 million.
What I'm thinking of, it's just that. Do you remember me telling you I wanted the titles now? Impatient.
Yeah.
I was expecting to be like 4 or 5 fights, and I remember my pro debut. I looked at Jimmy Tibbs, there was the English title on at my weight at middleweight. I went, I'll fight him next. Jimmy went, you ain't even had, you're fighting your pro debut in half hour. Like, what do you mean? I said, I'll fight him next. I forgot who it was now. It was someone from Birmingham. And I remember I'd absolutely stand him on his head. I was thinking, like, that's the hardest fought. So when I sat and think about, could I have done more? I probably could have. But at the same time, I'm not one of these fighters what can't string a sentence together. And I think everything happens for a reason. I'm not one of these to sit and think, oh, I could have boxed another 10 times, but I also could have had brain damage.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. When you look at the perception of you, I'm going to move you into the sort of troubled area where you get yourself into some ridiculous scrapes, right? Seemingly. What do you think? What do you think the perception of you is?
It's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? Like, I think that some people, Simon, look, I've been seen doing an handful of bad stuff and stuff really that I've rightly paid the price for, been punished for. But there's also stepping away from boxing that people know what sort of person I am. I don't sit and talk about that side of things. I don't sit and, brandish that I've done this, I've done that, and I never would, because it's pointless even doing it. Because one day it may be me in that position, or it may be one of my kids in that position. I wouldn't want that to be talked about neither. But my own doings of what people I've put myself to be shot down for, not very good. Probably,
Why'd you put yourself in these situations, Bill? I sit across from you, right? And I think you're a nice fella, right? But you might be on your best behaviour.
Yeah.
But I look at these things, and I'm not really interested in trying to make you sit here and apologise for things you've done. But some of the things that you've done don't make sense. You get involved with a police officer and get some woman to punch someone in the face. You get someone to potentially do a sex act or punch someone in the face. You give a video out there of how to punch a woman in the face. And I'm looking at you thinking, why would you do those things? What would put you in a position where you think that anything but harm is going to come to you? Because whilst I suspect you don't mean this situation of this is how you punch a woman in the face, it was your idea of what you might have thought was funny at the time. But it's almost like an act of self-harm.
Do you know what, Simon? Being a professional athlete, now, you see these people that come back from the army, they're all a little bit, they go away and they come back, they're not the same person.
PTSD.
Yeah, like boxing's sometimes you don't see the sides of danger. You don't see the sides of, harmfulness of yourself. And you're thinking, all right, as long as no one ain't getting killed here or hurt here, we'll have a laugh and go. But being young and dumb is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. Because, my granddad said to me once, when, certain things has gone on, he said, look, if you're not young and dumb, you'll never be old and wise. And it sort of hit home a bit because, looking back on the stuff I've done now, for me kids, I've got one son who's 16. I've got all my sons now, they've got all these phones and YouTubes. It's embarrassing.
Because they can see it.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And listen, people have rubbers on the end of pencils to erase stuff.
Yeah. But in the digital age, you can't.
And you can't.
Yeah.
And I look back at it and I think, do you know what? Looking back at it now, it's cringy. You look at it and you think, I can't even tell you what was going through my brain. Was it a touch of, going back to you, was it a touch of, I don't know, arrogance, some sort of like brash? I don't know what I can't give you the excuse because it's so dumb.
But do you now look at it, because I don't want to dwell on it, because it has to come with a territory with you. If I don't ask you these questions, and people are going to go, why are you asking these questions?
But you know what the weird thing is? That people probably know me more for doing stupid things like that.
Yeah. But that's a shame though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Than some of my achievements.
Yeah.
Like I've met people and they go, oh yeah,
you're the fellow that did that.
You're the fellow who did that interview. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, you box as well. But that's the first thing they mention. I think they don't come and mention, oh, you're 2-weight world champion. 31 fights, 30 wins. They've mentioned that, and then when you drive and you're just sitting quiet and you think about it, it's not very good, and it's something I can't arrange. But the only thing is, I can put it down to, I've never been diagnosed with anything in my life like with ADHD or anything like that. I've sometimes my mind just goes blank, and it's just I don't know what it was. It was just young. I can only put it down as immature, bad behaviour, disgusting behaviour, to be honest, because, for what some of the things I've done, at the time, it seemed, I'm not going to lie, it seemed like the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was the funniest thing in the world.
So did it come from a position of piss taking rather than malice.
I think what it was a group of young men together in a few bits and places, all having a laugh, dumb young thinking, and probably piss taking.
Yeah.
Probably just completely just. But it's not only piss taking; it's going to the next. It's best piss taking, having a laugh and a joke.
I know what it is.
And then there's, and just to put it out on video, I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you now.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, listen, my son's got to watch that. Do you know what I mean? He's 16.
Do you think now that stage of that just because you said it was banter, right? And some people would say, well, when does banter become something you've got to change? Do you now look at that now? Because I don't want to dwell on this because I don't like taking people into spaces where you can go, and you did this and you did that. I think that's a crappy way to be. But do you look at it now and go, that was stupid of me. That's not happening again. That stage in my life, I'm an older, wiser, more sensible person. And if I find myself in a situation where I'm having a laugh and a joke, that wouldn't be something I'd replicate.
110%. And listen, it's easy for me to get on camera because, people's going to watch because I'm very straight. I'm not going to say I'm never going to make a mistake in my life again. I can't say that.
No, we're all going to make mistakes. It's the ones that you make, isn't it?
What I'm saying is that them mistakes would never cross my path ever again because, I got, for that video I got £100 fine. I got potentially banned. And when I made the one in lockdown, I don't know, I went to feed my horse because I tell you, I got horses. And when I'm down and I'm not feeling good, the only thing what gets me away from everything in life is horses. I've got one particular horse that is take every
Is that
stress.
because of your background as a traveller?
I don't think it's me. Maybe, yeah, it comes with it because I remember my granddad. I just passed my test and I was going out to work and he gave me 1,200 quid in this horse for my work truck. And I remember jogging this horse and, grooming it and getting it in the trap for a week. And then I realised I've got no work motor. Like, how am I going to get to work? Like, it taught me the best lesson I've ever learnt, though, business-wise. Like, going into business, he's very clever. It taught me the best lesson that I ever to learn. Cause I'm thinking, like, it taught me a lot. And, but, looking back on the videos and stuff like that, it's just...
It's a chapter of your life that's done. You regret it. It's not going to find itself repeating itself.
No, definitely not. In
Different
that scenario.
mistakes.
Yeah, listen.
We are what we are, aren't we?
Of course. Listen, it's one of them. I can only be sorry for what I've done. And do you know what? Without obviously going too much into it, I've actually met the person in the video, the first one, where we got slapped.
Yeah.
And do you know what made it even worse? What a lovely fella he is.
Mm.
Do you know what made it? He come in, I was sparring in the Ingle gym. I was sparring, you might have seen him with me all the time. He's the fireman, killer, and me a calm. So I'm sparring in the ring, me and him sparring. I remember the door went, it was only me and him. I looked over and I thought, it was a break. I think, where have I seen him before? Yeah, I've got the head guard. I thought, I've seen him somewhere before. And he come walking up and he went, hello. He said, I'm sorry about what went on. Oh, mate, it just made me feel even worse, yeah? And me and him, like, we took him for a bit of food, and I had a conversation with him, and like I would rather him be a bit of a wanker, yeah. And it still would have been good, but it wouldn't have made me. I think
feel
that's
as bad as it did.
It made me feel so bad because he was a nice fella as well, and so that was that chapter. But it definitely things like that won't happen again because, at the end of the day, that could be me mum, that could be me dad, that could be my own family, and I wouldn't be happy about it.
I'm a fan of Tyson Fury's.
Yep.
A huge fan of his. I think generationally, he's the best heavyweight around.
Yep.
I think he opened up the heavyweight division for everybody by his performance against Vladimir Klitschko. It wasn't the greatest fight in the world to watch, but by Christ did he go and win it and no one thought he could.
Yep.
I think his performances against Deontay Wilder in all three fights were exceptional. I think he won all three.
Yeah.
He's your mate. Talk to me about him.
He's a character, Tyson. He's
You say that again.
he's a character. He knows what he's doing when it comes to selling a fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's I think personally myself, he's sort of turned from the villain to the superhero in a way. And I also think sometimes he don't really get the credit he deserves.
I agree with that. He was a bit of an object of ridicule initially, wasn't he? Because, he was the one that punched himself in the face and whatever else, but he was always the one. I loved the interviews he did when he was going to fight David Haye.
Yeah.
Took his pants down, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, David Haye's quite good in interviews.
Yeah.
I didn't think he saw Tyson coming in that interview, did he?
No. not at all. Tyson, he's just a one-off character. Listen, Tyson, he's got a good art, and myself personally, I don't think there's an heavyweight out there to beat him. Who he's fighting next?
Well, this is what I want to ask you. What's going on here?
Who he's fighting next? My honest opinion of it is that it's a money fight.
Of course it is.
It's about the money for the promoters. It's about the money for Ngannou. It's about the money for Tyson. It's generational wealth.
Yeah, it is.
And he's paid the price of getting in the ring, fighting Steve Cunningham for $20,000 and going to spend it on a fur coat as soon as he come out the ring.
And getting knocked down in that fight.
So, this fella, if Tyson really wants to, it can be over in 30 seconds or less.
But what do you think to it, Bill? Because Tyson's got the needle with me a little bit, because whenever I was praising Tyson, he thought I was very fair.
You got to take criticism as well, and I know where you're coming from.
But he don't like it.
Well, look, sadly, I don't like criticism.
But
you've got to deal with it.
If it's fair criticism.
It's fair criticism.
If you can take it.
Look, at the end of the day, you know your boxing.
To a degree.
You know your boxing. You've been around it. You know about fights. You know what's a good fight, what's not a good fight. You've been around it enough to know that.
And I respect it as well, by the way.
And you respect the game. This, to me, is, I would say that if you could tie one foot up and one hand up, and it's a one-sided fight for Tyson Fury.
Oh, undeniable.
So
undeniable.
People know, but
I don't begrudge him this fight.
But I'll tell you what you get now. This is the thing that a lot of things happening now in the sport is that you got a new viewing audience. You got, these who follows these YouTube boxing.
I get it.
And that's just and they're looking at the beast from the east, this UFC fighter fighting
I get it.
6 foot
I get it.
8 Gypsy King, and what's going to happen? Is he going to get hit on the chin? Is he no?
But I don't have a problem with it, Bill, because I know what it is. Frank sat there and said to me, "You need to get the bigger picture." I know what a bigger picture is. They're trying to get a relationship with the Middle Eastern guys. Eddie thinks he's got one. He hasn't yet because he can't make the fights. Frank thinks he's got a relationship now by opening this door. He puts this on. He opens this door. He's got a proper relationship with the people in Saudi. He can then make the big fights, that the proper grown-up fights that people want to see. People don't really want to see, the boxing world doesn't really want to see Tyson Fury, the WBC champion, the lineal champion, arguably the greatest heavyweight champion of his generation, fighting an MMA fighter for a bag of money. But they'll live with it.
Because you're a boxing fan.
But they'll live with it, right? Because it opens the door. But my problem with it is he hasn't fought anybody of any substance in the last 18 months. He's the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, which is arguably the blue chip strap, right? It's the one that everybody wanted once upon a time. And he's fought Dillian Whyte. In fairness, he was the mandatory. Cleaned his clock. It was easy. 4 rounds of totally being outclassed. Then fights Derek Chisora so he can give Derek Chisora a pension. No more fights since then. And everyone listens to Frank saying that's because no one makes Tyson Fury an offer. When he makes them an offer, they don't want to take it. But we're in a stage now where Tyson's fighting for this big bag of money. Fantastic, earn it, go and get it. And if you're holding him up for 6 rounds just to make it look better, okay, that's what it is. But he's now talking about saying, "I'll go and fight John Jones in the octagon." And he's now being given this dispensation to keep the WBC belt rather than say, "Tyson, you haven't fought for you won't have fought a meaningful fight for over a year, and the belt's being held up, and you're not doing anything with it." And to me, it seems such a waste. It's only a finite amount of time you guys have got. He's not getting any younger.
When it comes to the belts, is that, let's just say for an argument's sake, I don't know who his manager is. Let's just say it's Daniel Dubois. Let's just say that. For Daniel fighting for that belt,
he ain't got a mandatory. The mandatory was going to be Deontay Wilder or Andy Ruiz.
All right,
and they couldn't make that fight.
Let's just say Andy Ruiz. If Andy boxes, the WBC out of 5% will probably earn 15, 25. Oh, let's just put an argument and say $100,000. Mm-hmm. When Tyson boxes for it, they'll earn probably $1 million.
10 million,
yeah, something like that. Like, it's just completely chalk and cheese, and sometimes these organisations can be a little bit persuaded by them figures.
What's he like, Tyson? I mean, I've met him on a few occasions, and I really liked him. He phoned in on the show a few times, and liked me, and his dad liked me because I don't pull any punches and I don't care what I'm saying and I'm not frightened of anybody and I don't care whether you like me or you don't like me, so I don't say things to have popular opinions. And then I met him and I saw a superstar. I saw him come in the dressing room in a press on the presser for the white fight at Wembley Stadium. He came in and sat in the dressing room and did a piece with myself and Jim White, and I went, fucking superstar. Awful suit, but superstar. Personality, charisma, energy, messaging on points. And then I've seen the other side of him outside the ring when Joe Joyce has beaten Joseph Parker and he's hogging all the attention with Derek Chisora while Joe Joyce is in the ring having had his face punched in for a period of time by Joseph Parker and Tyson's taking all the attention. And I've seen the silly outbursts on social media and getting all aggressive with people because he doesn't like the criticism. You know him. What kind of fellow is he? I see him on Piers Morgan making bets that he doesn't pay up on, doing things he says he's not going to do. And I look at him and think, but you're a superstar. You can do what you want. You've got charisma for fun. Why are you fanning about and not doing what you should be doing?
Look, I can't really speak of what pushes his boat and what don't pushes his boat, but he sort of made a career longevity and financial gain out of being the person off the cuff and,
he's funny,
doing these things.
He's funny, isn't he?
And, but to you probably look at it, you're a bit old school, you look at it and you think, oh, yeah, but to the young people, younger generation, he sort of got this. It's very hard to get the younger generation's attention
yeah,
coming through. He sort of captured that. Now, what he's done, how he's done it, is magnificent. It's unbelievable how he's done it. But some people will look at it and think like yourself, oh, I don't like that. But some people also look on the other side and they love it. But I know where you're coming from.
I expect better of him, that's why.
You expect better. I know where I know where you're coming from and your point coming across, and I can see your point across. When Joe Joyce is fighting, he said it to me before when I'm there, get in that ring, go and earn yourself a couple of $1 million, holler at him, they do it. Like his advice sometimes, like I've took his advice sometimes and I haven't some other times. But he's just a very strange individual at times.
In what way? Is that because of his bipolarity, or what?
Well, I'll give you an example. When I first brought him to Spain, he was Marbella.
Yeah.
He was going to do he was telling me he was going to be some car salesman, whatever he was going to do.
Right.
And I said to him, Tyson, are you thick? What's your problem? Are you okay? What do you mean you're going to go? He's going to go to Ireland and sell some cars. And I said, get yourself on a plane, come over here, get yourself training, lose a bit of weight, go and get yourself a few $1 million. I'll book you a flight, come over, Marbella. I'm waiting at the airport, and all of a sudden he's come out of this same sort of shirts he wears, this big round straw hat. I'm looking at him, I thought, fuck me, look at the size of him. I'm just looking at him. He's about 27 stone, and he's just sweating out, and he's undone this tin of drink, and I grabbed the drink out of his hand, in a little glass thing, chucked it in the bin. I said, right, if you're coming here, like, we're training here, like, got him in, and then he was loving it for a week, and then he started talking about killing himself. I looked at Ben, I said, Ben, like, he's on about committing suicide here, like, what's going to happen if we've brought him out here, we come here.
Is this after he's won the world title against Klitschko?
Yeah.
So he's in that phase where he's lost a will to fight, all that crap on the BBC where Gary Lineker tried to humiliate him about his views on homosexuality and stuff, and he's in that space where he's ballooned up, right, and the drugs and the drink I've got hold of him for a period of time, right.
And I just remember, but then, do you know what, fair play to him, like, you'll have a conversation, I'll sit him down, I go, look, and I remember saying to him, Tyson, your son, like, your kids
you've got more value in life than this,
like, can you imagine, like, your kids looking back now? And I remember the conversation having with him, sitting in the front room, and I'm not saying it was because of me or he took notice of me, but I get up. I said, look, we'll get up in the morning, we'll go for a run. Give it a day or so, you'll be all right. And then he'll run. He was walking, first of all. He'd try a little run, and he'll walk. Then he done his interview with Gareth Davis, the first interview he'd done. Then he just manifested into a training freak and just loved his training every day. And he had to fly home for a week. He'd come back out with his training again. And he just cracked on.
Is he a decent man?
He is a decent man, yeah. There's no harm in him. Everyone's got their ways. Like,
we're all different, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's got their ways, but there's no harm in him. Like, there ain't no harm in him.
Do you think he will fight all those that he needs to fight to cement his legacy?
No matter what he says and what he don't say,
Yeah.
and the shit he put out, he doesn't need to. He does that for
I
a
know
reaction.
he doesn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, when he says he doesn't need to, I ain't got to fight this one. He does that for a reaction.
Okay, so
you
do
trust
you think...
me, and I'll have the same bet with you that I gambled earlier on that Eubank don't become world champion. He'll fight Joshua, he'll fight Usyk, he'll fight whoever there is need to fight. But I will gamble them two fighters, Joshua and Usyk, will 1,000,000% happen.
And the outcomes?
I'm not saying it because I think Usyk causes him problems, but don't beat him.
Yeah.
I think Usyk causes any heavyweight and any fighter on the planet serious problems. But Tyson Fury, you know, he's got the key to his lock.
He's a different level. I think Tyson will ragdoll him, quite frankly.
It won't be a one-sided beatdown.
Do you not think?
It won't be a one-sided beatdown. Not for at least to 6 rounds is out the way. Then maybe so, but for 6 rounds, Usyk is a dodgy customer. And I've told Tyson this for anybody.
Yeah.
For 6 rounds, it's going to be like, even when he come back from his who was it now, the Deontay Wilder fight. Do you know that the first fight he made of Wilder, I was in training in Sheffield, and he rang me up. He said, "Right, they've offered me Wilder. What do you reckon? What do you reckon?" He said, "Be honest." I said, "Do you want me to tell you the truth?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "If you don't let him hit you, you will beat him all day long. Box his ears off. All you got to do is be fit, box, and you beat him easy." "Do you reckon?" He said. I said, "I don't reckon, I know." And he can call me a liar and come out and say, "Oh yeah, he's lying." This is dead the words I said to him. I said, "But you don't want to be taking none of them shots. Get fit, don't get it, you win easy. Take it." And he took it and he done it. And
so you think he beats Usyk? Do you think he beats Antony?
I think he beats Anthony. Do you know what? I really, really rate Antony Joshua.
Yeah.
I remember watching him. He watched me win the Southern Area title, and I boxed. I talking to him after I boxed, but he lets himself down.
Do you think he's done, Bill? Because I speak to a lot of the fighters, and they all say, Barry McGuigan said it was saying, a fighter knows something about another fighter. They know when a fighter, that light's gone out in their eyes, where they don't want to put themselves in the way of jeopardy, and they've gone away from the what it takes to win a fight. And he said, "I look at Antony Joshua and I think, no, he don't want to get hurt. He wants to stay out of range, and the very things that put him in a position he's not prepared to do anymore."
I would love him to prove me wrong, but I think the same.
Yeah.
And I would love for Joshua to prove me wrong, and I'm not saying he can't come back from that.
Difficult place to come back from, though, isn't it? Because once it's gone, it's gone, isn't it?
Do you know what, though? The thing is that I think a fighter knows when that's happened. I think you would know, because look, I'm not coming back. Obviously, look, I'll come back and I'll have a fight and the money comes with it, like we said earlier on. But I'm coming back because I've had the sick of, like, I've got. Is this what I'm going to do for the rest
this is
of
what
my
I'm going to
life?
ask you now, because this is the final part now, which is you. And we've talked about Tyson, we've talked about all your experiences, but the final question that I want to ask you is, are you playing hide and seek with everybody? Because are you coming back? Is it something you want to do? Is it something you need to do? Is it something you're going to do? Are you coming back at light heavy? Are you coming back at super middle? What are you going to do, really going to do, Billy?
I have to come back.
You have to come back.
I have to.
Well, is that bullshit because you're sitting in front of a TV camera?
No.
Or is it because
I'll be honest.
listen,
listen, if it is, you can say, "Billy Joe, do you know what? You talked a load of shit." And I want you to say that to me. Yeah? I have to come back because, like, I can't keep thinking about...
But it's 2.5 years now.
Should have, could have. Yeah, I know. And do you know what? I've been boxing mentally since I've been 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Since I've been 5 years old, take away injuries, if I've had a year out the gym or 2 years out the gym because of, for not wanting to do it or something like that, that's a lot. I've been boxing since I've been 5 years old. I needed that break so much.
Right.
Probably got a bit comfortable of it. A bit too comfortable in a way. Put on a bit of weight. Enjoyed life. Do you know what? I am 34-year-old. I've never been on holiday.
Right.
I've been all over the world boxing. I've been all over the world training, but I've never actually been on holiday, ever in my life.
But wouldn't that make you a bit soft, though?
Soft?
Yeah.
What, going on holiday?
No, but the lifestyle. Once you get a few quid You made a few quid out of Canelo, proper money out of the Canelo Alvarez fight. You've been out of it for 2.5 years. Getting back in, hard, isn't it?
Do you know what? I've never been more determined. I've been going in the gym every single other day and sparring undefeated fighters that have all been up there. 8 rounds, 10 rounds. And I'm thinking, fuck me, like, that's why I took a lot away from the Canelo. I took a lot away from the Canelo fight because I think, do you know what? He's the baddest man on the planet here, and I didn't feel out of comfort. No one really can beat me then, apart from this. Then, if that's the case, all right, he beat me fair and square, but no one ain't going to beat me. Like, I've been tested. I know that my own self, but I have to do it because people can deteriorate with mental health, with other stuff, and I'm not going to bang on that drum the same as everyone else. Because everybody gets down, you can fall into a little bad place. But it's difficult for you guys,
isn't it, though? Because once you come out of the sport, people forget you, and life changes. You've walked in front of 75,000 people, or however many.
Do you know what, though? I'm not really worried about people forgetting me, or anything like that. It's more of a fact of myself, probably saying, have one best performance of your life where, you can show what you have got and then be done with it.
When?
I'm going to fight in December.
Are you?
Yep. I'm going to fight in December. Look, I'm not going to say I'm going to
opponent?
No, me and Eddie's, we won't have a
You're going to go back with Eddie Hearn, are you?
Going to go back with Eddie, yep.
In what weight class?
I'll probably fight at 12.6, 12.5. I'm not going to say I'm going to fight a superstar. I'm not going to sit in, sell rubbish and say I'm going to fight.
So you're going
to
fight at 174, 175. So is that you're going to fight in light heavy?
I'm going to fight 12 stone 6 coming back, and then you'll see me New Year 12 stone.
Right.
It'll be a roll.
So super middle.
Yeah, I could say right from there. Let's say it's 11, 12 weeks. I could get down to 12 stone, but at what cost?
Yeah.
I don't want to go in there and stink the place out.
Yeah.
Because I'm drained and I ain't made the weight. I want to slowly bring it down, and then obviously have a little run out, get the ball rolling, pick the opponent up, and then look for the biggest fights he can bring me, and then see where I'm at. I only want 3 or 4 fights, but I'm looking now to build a career around boxing, because this walking away, look, you know yourself, you're a successful man. Mm-hmm. You can do a property, you can do this.
Yeah, but it doesn't satisfy you, does it?
What is? Do you know what I mean? Look, no disrespect, you don't need to set it. You're not doing this for me. Look, do you know what I mean? It's just something was probably keeping you something
absolutely.
to do, and you're giving other people opportunity to get somewhere. And I need something to be involved in boxing. It's an hard sport just to forget about and to walk away. I'm not worried about me being known or seen.
It's a way of life, isn't it?
It's just a way of, it's just my way of life since I've been 5. And it's hard just to walk away now.
But so we're definitely going to see you out in December.
You are, yeah. 100%.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Billy Joe Saunders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being so upfront with me.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Up Front with me, Simon Jordan, is brought to you by William Hill. Future episodes can be found on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. 18 plus, please gamble responsibly.